In the last 10 years, the times I've laughed the hardest have been working with Dan.
Some time ago, Dave and I were at a coffee shop in the north part of town, and as we were writing, we were there for probably 3 hours or so during a writing session, and in the course of that, about half an hour, 40 minutes of that time, we were laughing pretty hard because we were just starting to generate some material that was funny to us, and so there was a lot of laughing. But later on in the day, a pastor friend of mine stopped me and said, "Hey, I saw you and your friend Dave at the coffee shop today, and boy, you guys were really having a good time." And I thought, well, yeah, right. That's what it's like when Dave and I work together. The collaborative process is fun.
I mean, it's sort of like watching little kids laugh. You look around and realize there's a bunch of other people around you laughing because of your laughing. And I don't want to go on and on about it, but I don't find that in a lot of places in life. And a big part of that happens because Dan Wright's funny. He just is.
How Dave and I are different. I am far more foul a person than Dave is, at least publicly.
Yes. I'll give you a good, very specific example. When we first started doing the chicken puppet spots for Wings, etc., it was the very first spot we were really working on. And I'm tied up in all the anxiety of how do we introduce them? Do we give them names? And Dan's first suggestion for a line, for the first line one of the chickens says is, "So she just packed up and left you, huh?"
If Dave were only looking for, or if I were only looking for pop culture references and reference humor kinds of things, we wouldn't be getting to that kind of funny.
Whatever work we've done that people would point out and say, this is really good, it's really good because he's sort of that constant drumbeat of find the funny, find the funny, find the truth, strip away all the extraneous, find the funny.
Make it entertaining, because you can get people to think, but you have to make them feel first. You have to be entertaining. And I think we're good at that. The fun of the process, I think, comes out in the work when you see it. We're looking for the humor, we're looking for the honesty, and we're looking for the humor in who the characters are.
You get to funny by digging down to who these people are and what's the truth of their lives. I'm so much more interested in the external and in making sure everybody understands the external. And what I've learned to do with Dan is realize all that stuff will be self-evident. Get to the truth.
We're looking for the honest characters. Who are the characters that are going to appear in this? And who do those characters even need to be? And the honesty for us is finding the psychology of that character. What makes that particular character tick? And once we find the protagonist, let's say, of a given bit, what do the other characters that appear alongside that character pull out of him?
These are people. These are people in the middle of an experience. Let's not try to present this. Let's try to make it seem as if we've stumbled on it. That's why it seems more real. That's why it seems more true. And of course, if you have a couple chicken puppets sitting there, and the first line one of them says is, "So she just packed up and left you," how can what comes next not be funny? You don't pander to the audience. You don't purely go on the basis of it's a success because people like it. But I think people that are good at telling jokes or at humor find a way to find that groove.
Dave often has a better sense of what will play commercially than I have. Dave has a better understanding of the broadest audience that, or demographic, take your pick of those words, that needs to hear what it is that a company is saying. And that's smarter business. I'm not thinking like that first and foremost. Thinking that way doesn't come naturally to me, and it does come naturally to Dave.
And, you know, there are a lot of things. He mentioned the thing about maybe I'm more business-oriented or business-minded. I don't think it's as hard for someone to have that skill set, or as rare as it is for people who have his skill set. A good example of this is a project that he and I started back in about 2004. And I had a lot of ideas, and many of those ideas ended up in the final work. But he had the ability to filter. And that's one of the things that he does incredibly well, is he looks at this sort of universe of ideas and possibilities, and he is able to sort of sift through those in a way that gets you to the best of those possibilities. He has that critical eye and ear for saying, these are the essential things, let's use these.
I don't do the kind of in-depth research technically that Dave will do. I'm good thinking technically for about an hour, maybe 2 hours, but Dave will dive in for 2 days, and Dave will know it from the experts and will know it better than some of the experts in the field will know it.
He's much more willing to jump in with both feet on something that even if he doesn't fully have mastery of it yet, he's much better at, let's, jump off the cliff and learn how to fly on the way down. That's sort of the opposite of me. And it's terrifying, and yet it's very exhilarating when I'm willing to sort of take a deep breath and go. And it's one of the things I love, love, love about working with him, is that it's completely the opposite of how I would typically approach something. If somebody said, of all the things you get to do in your months and weeks and years of career, what are the funnest things? The funnest things are writing, sitting in a coffee shop someplace and writing, having a shoot day, watching what comes out of the ad-libs of a puppet's mouth, or going through and working through the details of a script with Dan and then having him go back to sort of work on the voiceover and the animation and find out that he added a twist or something else to it after the fact that we probably wouldn't have come up with together, because he's in that little studio area where, the sort of nutty parts and weird parts of him come out, and add that other layer to this that really gives it breadth, and really gives it memorability.
Dave will give really good direction in a shooting day, really good direction in voiceover performance, but it's all collaborative. It all feels collaborative. Saying that I enjoy working together and that I enjoy shooting days and days where we're writing and just the process of Dave and I working together to make something, to go from nothing. We have nothing. We don't even have an idea yet. We know that here's a client that has a need. And to begin the process of solving that need, the creative problem solving. I enjoy all of the process, but the word enjoy really doesn't cover it. And it's more than just fun. It satisfies me creatively to collaborate with Dave and to go from having nothing to having, here's a finished piece, whether it's an animated piece or a 30-second TV commercial with puppets or whatever.
I've never taken it for granted. I've never thought, no big deal. It is a big deal. It's a big deal to be able to work on things you love to work on, and to be able to step back from it after the fact and say, wow, that's nice. It's very, very gratifying to think if I've got to do something to support my family, to live my life, what a joy it is to be able to do something that's a blast.